Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I'd show you some updates on the starter CV carrier base thing. It's coming along pretty good. I had a couple more things to figure out on it, but I think I got through that now. And now, really, what's left is a little bit more of the interior. But I wanted to talk about some comments on the last video. First thing is the hull material. A number of people actually brought that up that they don't like the idea of it being in carbon. It's too weak, too easy to take damage, especially if you're going to start it in as a starter base without a shield. I agree. I really do agree. So I was going to bring it up to a vote today whether or not the hull material should switch, but I decided to go ahead and kind of do it anyway, but not just like a one-to-one kind of thing though. I didn't want to convert the entire ship to steel. So here's what I ended up doing, and it took a little bit on this conversion. Obviously, I still use the console command to mass do it, but what I ended up doing is I copied parts of the ship away and basically moved it right off from this blueprint and stuck it to another blueprint temporarily. And basically, the parts I took away were the parts I wanted to keep in carbon. And those areas would be like this wall back over here, the ceiling up above the module bay, and like the edges of the landing area that don't cover up the interior space, like this area over here. But what I did switch over to steel is basically all four of the thruster housings, except for some trim blocks here, which I actually manually converted back to carbon with a multi-tool. And it's steel wrapped around the entire interior area, which is basically a rectangle from starting at this wall here up to the front of the ship, just down the center. So anything that didn't need to be steel, that wasn't protecting interior space or a thruster or something like that, is not steel. So all those are carbon. Um, I'm not sure where that came from. I'm like, what's that there? Where did that come from? Must have been left there from some other video, I guess, or something like that. So anyway, so that was part number one. Is it's got a steel hull, steel base hull now. But again, I'm really trying to watch the weight on this thing. So all weird things, even these like little things that jet out from the hull, that's carbon too. So is like some of the blocks out here by the staircase. So anything I could make carbon is carbon, including all the, not that I did much of the interior at this point in time, but I did actually switch all the interior blocks to carbon as well. So it should be stronger. It's got more steel, which is also going to help with the shield and things like that. So beyond that, the next part that I put most of the time into the ship on is the engineering section. So let's get in there. And this area I got pretty much wrapped up, except for light sensors. And that's really about it. So I managed to pack in everything I wanted to pack in here, so I'm kind of happy about that. It was kind of a tricky part of the build because there's a lot of things I wanted to get in here and had to play around with how everything was going to fit, but also maintain this walk path through here. You know, the walk path going from the hangar to the module bay in the back here that had to remain, plus the two walk paths going out to the two side entrances. But what I managed to get in this engineering area, and I got all the parts just chilling in here right now. So we've got a warp drive, we've got our pentaxid tank, we've got a place to put a advanced generator. We've got 4 of these small turbines. They're 1x3 turbines in here. It can actually hold 3 1x3 generators. There's one there, and there's 2 more over in this section. And then we got our gravity generator up over there. We got the main shield. And of course, you could put in a compact shield in that location as well. It's just kind of left open. We got 4 of the great big turbines in here. So these are the biggest of the big turbines. We got a fusion reactor, so that's got a home for that. And then we got 4 of the medium turbines up over here. And then we have 4 medium shield parts down in here as well. Then some extra places to add some fuel tanks or something like that up in the ceiling. And yeah, I think that's about it that's in this room. But that's all the parts I did want to get in here. Now, for small shield parts, I want it to be able to hold probably 8 of those. Those are actually going to be placed out on this wall in the hangar area of the ship. So I'll probably create some kind of location to pop in small shield parts as well. I don't intend on going into large shield parts. So those I'm going to just kind of keep out of here. So basically, what's next is I got to do the hangar, and I got to finish up the farm, and finish up this interior stuff in these different places over here as well. Um, but after I converted it to steel and everything, I kind of wanted to get a ballpark idea on what this thing's going to cost. So here's basically the same ship, but I stripped away all its thrusters and all those parts except for a small generator, a 1x2 generator in the ship, just to have power. So the thrusters are out, all the extra shield parts and warp drive and all that stuff has gone out of the room. I even removed the pilot seat in here. So this is basically, obviously completely unfinished, but ballpark idea on what it's going to cost. Now, it's not going to cost that much more. Basically, I'll be adding some more, probably carbon blocks, and a few lights and a couple pieces for medical equipment and stuff like that. But where it's ending up at after the switch to steel, and as you can see, it's using a whole lot more iron than it did the last time, but less carbon. But it's still using some carbon too. So there's the current build cost. I expect when it's all done to be just a little bit under 2 hour and 30-minute build time. Now that did jump up quite a bit when it was switched over to steel. And this also has to account for at least a constructor or two added to the build as well. And I did keep the turrets on here. Now I'll switch these to minigun turrets instead of the cannons, but it will come stock with the 4 turrets as well. So this would be kind of like the starter version, unlock level 10, doesn't move, it's just a stationary base at this point. So a couple other things I was messing with is some areas that I do need to modify a little bit though is the farm. The farm layout, although it's very centered and symmetrical right now, it doesn't work out so well. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to do some adjustments here. Move the door, maybe shift one of the grow plots over to one side or the other or something like that, just to essentially speaking, when you walk in, you got this one walk path right down the middle, and you can't get to the edge walk path unless you walk over the grow plots. I don't really have any good places to put the food processors and fridges and that kind of thing in here at the time, so I'm probably going to modify the layout in here a little bit to make it a little better. Maybe have the door on one side, push the grow plots over, although I spent a lot of time making them centered with the glass out here, but I'll figure something out. But I want it to be a little bit more efficient than what it is. Let's see, beyond that, yeah, I got a lot of texturing to do. Got to do all the block work in the hangar. Something that was, a couple things that were brought up also in comments is, what about the med bay? That was a question. Basically, yeah, it's going to have a med bay. It's probably going to be right in this general area here. I just haven't done it yet. So it's got a location. There's a lot more blocks beyond here, so don't think that's the outer hull and being carbon right there. That's just kind of sealing the backside of a thruster away from those other pieces there. So yeah, it will have a full medical bay, some more upgrade parts, probably mostly to do with small shields, maybe some extra places for fuel tanks and air tanks over on that part of the hangar. I'll probably give it a location to add a repair console and repair bay as well. It's pretty standard, whether or not you put one in or whatnot. And on a ship like this, too, I might have it so you could put it on the top or down in the hangar. It'll be kind of optional, so wherever you think it would be most convenient to have that repair bay. If you're repairing HVs, it'd probably make more sense to repair it in the hangar, but if you're repairing CVs or whatnot, probably better on the top. Wish you could add more than one. Wish it didn't cost a fortune if you could add more than one. I wish it didn't cost a fortune either. So that's kind of where it's at right now. So basically, I just got a lot of finishing interior work to do up on here, and I know I keep on planning more videos and then I don't get to them, and I apologize for that. Yesterday was busy again and was like, and then last night, later on, is when I actually probably spent a good four hours or so working on this engineering area to try to get this figured out and working. It's basically, first thing I try to do is lay out all the parts, kind of where I think they could fit, and then build up all the block work around the parts, and then again stripping the parts out of it as well. So yeah, hopefully this works. It looks, looks like an engineering area. I also, I'm starting to develop this color palette a little bit more too. I'm adding some more colors, like this particular orange is a new shade for the human palette. It's kind of goes back to the older human creations where I used to run more of a bold orange for the engineering areas. So it's kind of what this is, what's going on in here too. Kind of a mix. It was really weird, even the way this was painted. As you can see, some areas are orange, some areas are gray. Some areas, even like in this, is two different tones of gray between one area and the other, just to give it a little bit of separation. I'm not a big fan of all the decal lettering all over the place in here. But the only other way to indicate where the parts would go are LCDs. And see, LCDs, well, they could certainly look a whole lot better than this, right? And probably be more descriptive as well as what you're actually dealing with on parts. Problem is you still have to place all those LCDs somewhere, and usually about the only good place to place them is where the part actually needs to go. So you need to remove the LCD, then put the part in place. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna mess with LCDs on this one or not. I would like to take some time away sometime and build and do some kind of LCD work too for part indicators instead of doing all these decals all over the place. Again, I don't think they look great, but you got to know where the stuff is supposed to go and what's supposed to go there. Otherwise, it'll just be totally confusing to anybody. Have no idea where things. I mean, you could kind of guess in some places, but other places not so much. But other than that, that's where I'm at. Oh, another thing I did fix on this too is I got this. So we got a solid wall back over here, so you can add the two constructors or deconstructors. This was a problem last time when I added in two 640K storage bays. I ended up manipulating these and kind of redoing them, but I did not push them physically over further this way because that was going to be really inefficient with space. So what I ended up doing is unfortunately, I kind of made them look kind of pretty ugly in here. I was trying to keep it a lot, without like jaggy blocks and things all over the place. And I will paint all this black and make it whatnot, but it's more efficient done this way. It takes up less space, essentially speaking. Like I was able to put this row of blocks here without like moving this whole bay over, which was going to waste a bunch of room in between that area and this area. And honestly, it's just less efficient. So it's just kind of a stupid looking room. But all you do is you fill it in with every available location with container extensions, and then put a controller right here on both of these rooms over here for like an input and output 640K bays, and they're no longer in the way of anything else. And okay, so one other thing, this one had all these parts in here, actually way more power than it needs. In fact, this would be kind of a really stupid setup. So this version here that we first walked through has a fusion reactor, and it has the big generator, and it has 3 of these small generators. Complete obvious overkill. One other thing this ship I think has, let me make sure it does. No, maybe, well, it doesn't. Hold on. Well, anyway, I don't have to place them all right now. A Core 9 build in Reforged Eden brings the CPU to 800,000. At least that's where it's at now. It has changed once before. I don't know if it'll change again or not, but it is 800,000. I've got all kinds of stuff installed in this ship right now. In fact, if you take a look at our shield strength, here, you know what? Well, I guess that doesn't really matter either. The shield strength, with 4 medium shields plus the heavy shield in here, and this is actually the advanced shield. This is actually the advanced warp drive as well, plus all the turbines and everything like that. And you can see that it still did not hit Core 9. And this is with complete overkill and wasting a lot of CPU for power generation that it's just not being used. So essentially speaking, if it was set up properly with its power generation, you'd almost take off quite a bit of CPU from here. For instance, first of all, that fusion reactor that I've got in here, if we take a look at our CPU stats, is literally, where is it? Oh, I'm blind. I am so blind. Where did it go? Well, anyway, I can tell you, it's sitting over there, and it uses 100,000 CPU. Why don't I see it? It's right there. Come on. It must be a blindness thing. I know it is. But anyway, it uses 100,000 CPU. Totally doesn't need to be in the ship right now, which is a lot, right? That would take it down to 600 and whatever thousand. The difference, okay, now this ship, to upgrade the thrust, that's going to be a big thing about this ship, is definitely upgrading the thrust, and that's going to require additional CPU over what it has right now. So the thrusters, these baseline models, if we take a look at their specs here, they use 9600 CPU apiece, and they do 54 thrust power. Upgrading them to the next tier up, which are the plasma versions, they use, let's see, CPU goes up to 1440. So, I mean, if you look at the difference between this one and that one, it's pretty close to 5000 per thruster. But also look at the force. It's twice as much thrust power. So my whole point is what I'm getting at is not only could you put in a bunch of shield parts, a full set of turbines, plenty of power, you could also go through in a Core 9 setup and be able to upgrade literally all the thrusters on the ship to the next tier up as well, and keep it in a Core 9 specification. Or, you know, if you really didn't like some of these parts, I think are kind of useless to add to some extent. Like these guys over here, they use a little bit of they're not very good. They're the smallest of the turbines. They count each as like one solar panel, and they're the worst on CPU when it comes to turbines. Usually the smallest of any part type is, so that's nothing new there. But basically, I'm saying if you didn't put in these and just put in the larger turbines and maybe just this generator and not the three of these other ones and not the fusion reactor, or just the fusion reactor, not the other generators, you could definitely lower the CPU down on this thing. In fact, you could lower it down enough to not only upgrade all the thrusters, but also add in a 8-pack of small shield parts in conjunction to what's already here. So I think it should work out pretty good. Obviously, there's some more expenses with CPU for other things that you might want in the ship too, eventually, like a teleporter, obviously constructors, deconstructors, which aren't in here as well. And I don't think you use much CPU with like medical bay stuff or anything like that. I think I lost my lighting. Yeah, I think I lost the lighting. So, yeah, I think, you know, number-wise, everything's going to work. Now, there was another question, too, that I kept on showing parts that use CPU, but question was basically how, you know, where do you get the CPU from? And obviously, I'm sure most of you know that, obviously, but all these CPU blocks, you build these. Like there's CPU extender blocks. There's the basics. There's the advanced, superior, and improved. And even at that, let me grab, and then the quantums. But I don't think you need to go to quantum on this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a, and this is actually where the core room is going to be. I have not got around to doing that. I was thinking about doing a video on doing up this room or the hangar tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to do it again yesterday. Sorry about that. But let's add some CPU here. So we'll put in 2 basics. Now, if you take a look at the numbers on these basic cores, you start out with 200,000 CPU as soon as you lay down a CV starter block. Okay, so you have 200,000 to work with, and then every one of these blocks you add in will add in more CPU to the creation. They are limited. Like I can only put in 2 of these basic CPU cores. Each basic CPU core increases the CPU by 30,000. So by putting in those 2, my CPU should go up to 260,000, and that it did. So if I go through and I add in a couple of the next tier cores, and granted, these earlier tiers aren't super expensive, but they may require some cobalt and some other things. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to go out and a little further out into the galaxy, get some more resources or raid some more POIs or something like that to get parts to build these things. But it's part of playing the game, and it's not like advanced, super crazy stuff either. So adding in a couple of the next tier of these, again, maximum amount is 2 on these. Each one of these adds another 60,000. So now we should have went up by another 120,000 CPU. So now we're at 380,000 CPU. So if we go to the add 2 of the next tier up from there, again, the same idea. These ones here each add 90,000 CPU. So now we went up by another 180. So now we're at 560,000. And then if we add in the superior CPU cores somewhere, this gonna obviously this room is big enough to fit a lot of cores, so that's cool. Now we're up to 800,000. Now we hit our tier or our Core 9 setup. So if we go back into devices, let me sort that, and you'll see Core 9, and that's where that number's coming from. And we'll also look at our CPU, and now we're at 800,000. All those parts installed again. It's only using 706,000, and it's being very wasteful on top of that. So I think you could properly outfit this ship in a Core 9. Now I will give it room to add in other cores beyond this. Now there's more advanced cores that are going to be harder to build in game, such as your quantum cores and your auxiliary cores. But that you can increase the CPU beyond this by putting in those cores. I'll make sure it has spots for all of them in case. I don't even know what you'd add to the ship, for with that much CPU. Honestly, as in weapons, there's another comment about weapons and things like that, and saying that weapons are so expensive with CPU and stuff like that. And honestly, they very well may be. The thing with this ship is it doesn't care. I don't really care about much in weapons on it. It's all I care about is it can shoot down drones, basically, or shoot down some ground troops that come around you, or a pissed off animal or something. But other than that, I that's really all they're for on this ship. It's not meant to attack anything, not with this ship. I mean, hopefully you'll be able to lug around ships that are built for that. But this ship is just a base that moves around in space. And that's really about it. Holds some stuff, carries some stuff around, and actually it starts its life where it doesn't even move at all. It's just a base. So that's really all it's trying to be and all it's trying to do on this build. But I think it's going to work. I really think it's going to work. It's a little more pricey than I wanted it to be, and a lot of that came from switching it over to the steel hull. So there's still a couple thousand blocks that were switched over to steel on here from carbon, and that did ramp up the build time and a little bit on the cost. Obviously, uses less carbon and more iron in the build now. But as in motion-wise, too, now keep in mind, this version here has all those turbines and everything in it. And this is where it's coming at with the stock non-upgraded thrusters. So it still moves around. It would have a hard time if you had a lot of weight in here, for sure. Especially even if you filled up all the storage bays, added in those other two 640s, filled up the four 320s in here, and we're dragging a couple CVs along with you, maybe a module, a couple HVs or SVs. It would definitely weigh it down. That's where you're certainly going to need to be able to upgrade those thrusters to get this thing moving good enough. And that's really kind of what it's about. Again, it's trying to be a starter base turned into a CV that has function all the way to endgame. And that's kind of the goal behind this build. So you could start with this thing and just be using it your entire playthrough. You'll need other creations, of course. You'll want combat stuff and miners and anything else you can think of. But as just a baseline, like a single player Helios kind of thing, it's again significantly cheaper and smaller than the Helios. A lot less, it's a lot less of a ship. It only moves one module around, but if you're going to do like a solo gameplay or something like that, or even with another person, there's a lot of room on here. You could park some stuff on it and whatnot. And I don't know. We'll see how it comes. This is definitely one of those technical builds, and it's also partially just learning the numbers in Reforging in 2 as well, and how things are working. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about most of the stuff. I've looked at a lot of the parts now and things like that. A couple other things I haven't really done yet, and it was brought up in the last video as well, is I haven't really played with some of the RE and RE2 deco stuff yet. Like I haven't yet used these emitters. I like to call them emitters. They call them effect projectors, but in other terminology and game engines, they're typically always called emitters. But there's those, and there's a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to be trying to, when I decorate the ship more and get it ready to be on the workshop, I will try to look around and see what's there and see if I can stick in some pretty little thingies and stuff like that. I still got some work to do on this ship though. Obviously, I got to get this part done and the rest of the interior done. I'm happy to get engineering out of the way though. I didn't think it was going to be that challenging, but it turned out to be pretty tricky with so many parts and big parts, and how was I going to arrange them in this rectangle area and try to keep it looking nice at the same time. So granted, if I was a little, I could probably fit more in here. I'm sure, well, obviously could fit more in here, but I still wanted it to kind of look neat, one way or the other, and have the hallway and stuff still work and things like that. But I'm actually really excited about this build. I really am. I think it's for like a starter type of creation. It's a little bit different than anything I've done before. I made a lot of starter CVs and starter bases and things like that. But this is just kind of this is different. I had a lot of fun building the Janus too. The Janus was kind of different. This is like an advanced, bigger Janus that does more stuff than the Janus does. But the Janus has its thing. Janus does a lot of things too. That was a fun one. But other than that, that's all I've got for today. Please let me know if you got any anything to say about it. I'm trying to listen to the comments a lot too, and like on the last video, a whole bunch of people said it's kind of a no-go being carbon, and that sucks that it's carbon, and it's so that was like a biggie I wanted to address, and that was like the first thing I did after when I had some time to work on it. I was like, well, let's get this hull material switched out, see how it's going to be, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to kill the build, and then it's stronger now. It'll have more shield hit points, and obvious, like all these blocks, even up here, are steel. Full steel block is 5,000 hit points. A full carbon block is that a full block? I guess that is a full block. Oh, this one is. Yeah, right there. Yeah, I thought it was a more of an even number, but I guess a full carbon block has 1,650 hit points. So, I mean, all these hit point numbers and stuff have changed from where I was, how I was familiar with them. But obviously, the steel is going to be able to take a little bit more than the carbon. The carbon disintegrates pretty easily. As in, like, the areas that I didn't do in steel, like this back part of the landing deck and, like, this framework in here, it could be steel. It would have been way easier just to have everything steel. But it's just going to add a bunch more weight to it, and it's not protecting anything, and that's why I didn't want to do it that way. So, all right. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Tomorrow, hopefully, a build video, though. I want to get in that interior and get some good work done on that and build out some stuff. So, hopefully, unless something goes crazy again, I'll have time to do a video tomorrow on that. So, other than that, y'all have yourself a great day, and I will talk to you later.